So I am going to begin, and hopefully more will join us as I am leaving the waiting room open. So good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. My name is Rachel Tansey. I am here to welcome you to our Live Well and Stay Healthy Wellness webinar series, brought to you by the Family and Community Health Sciences Department with Rutgers Cooperative Extension. I am serving as your presenter today for a program on nuts, Let's Go Nuts, originally created by a colleague, Shalja Mather. But before we move on, I just wanted to go over a few of our webinar logistics with you, that as participants, you are all muted and your videos are blocked. And if you have any technical questions, please put them in the chat box, or any questions for the presentation, please put them in the Q&A box. This webinar is also being recorded, and as a follow-up at the end, any resources and such will be sent to you in an email. We are, RCE, Rutgers Cooperative Extension, is an affirmative action equal opportunity employer. And just to go over a little bit of the structure of our department, there are 3 departments: the Agriculture and Natural Resources Department, which you may have seen throughout the state, some of the experiment stations, and that also encompasses our Marine Science Department, as well as for 4-H Youth Development Department, a lot of people are familiar with. And then there's our Department of Family and Community Health Sciences, or FCHS, as we affectionately call it, where we focus on food, nutrition, and wellness topics. So just to jump right in, I just wanted to go over a little bit of our overview. We will discuss the health benefits of nuts, the nutrients, different types of nuts, ways we can incorporate nuts into our diet, as well as the recommended daily dose of these nuts would be, would be about 1 to 1.5 ounces. A small little handful is the recommended amount. So to go into a little bit of the health of benefits of nuts, these are very helpful for us and can help reduce the risk of heart disease. One of the studies I wanted to mention to you, I have here, a Harvard School of Public Health analyzed data from over 200,000 professionals followed for 32 years. And that when people who ate nuts 5 or more times a week had 14 to 20% lower risk of cardiovascular disease. So the benefits of nuts can really be beneficial to your heart. They tend to be low in carbohydrates, preferably if they're just a basic nut. I know we can buy nuts that have a lot of flavorings and things like that these days, but we do have to watch the carbs. But generally, a healthful little handful of nuts is very low in carbohydrates, and they can even potentially help regulate and reduce your fasting blood glucose levels. Another study showed that for those who incorporated nuts after diagnosis of diabetes, had 15% lower risk of heart disease and 25% lower risk of a cardiovascular disease after they were diagnosed with diabetes. So they were able to incorporate some nuts and help lower their risks and help their fasting blood glucose levels as well. So containing the important minerals and vitamins, we're going to go through that in a little bit, and they are a very reliable source of protein. It's generally a protein that might have some fats to it, but these are the good, healthy fats. So it's especially important to get protein if you're vegetarian or vegan. With many of those diets, protein is one of the main nutrients, as well for any that are not, but it's a good, healthy protein to have in your diet. So some of the nutrients that we're discussing were those proteins. It's a good protein to have. There are some fats, but these are the healthy fats. So the American Heart Association recommends eating about 4 to 5 servings of unsalted nuts a week. And a serving is generally, as I mentioned, like a little handful or about 1 ounce. They're roughly 150 to 200 calories per serving. It's a great little snack to have, and it's wonderful because it's generally, as I mentioned, low in carbs, but also can be high in fiber, which is good for our digestive system. And then we have here a couple minerals as well that they can be found, and things will vary from nut to nut, but magnesium as well as selenium. So magnesium is really important to help control our blood sugar, and selenium can actually help improve our, boost our immune system and help with our hair and nails as well. And then also many nuts have vitamin E and vitamin B. So there's many, many nutrients that we can definitely benefit from having nuts into our diet. So nuts are also high in those healthy fats. That's what I was mentioning. We want to look for the monounsaturated and the polyunsaturated fats. These are the ones that help improve blood cholesterol levels and can decrease that heart disease and the risk for type 2 diabetes. They also, depending on the nut, have a benefit of omega-3s and even omega-6s, where a lot of those are beneficial to your heart and your brain health. So it's important to make sure that we're having foods in our diet that help decrease the risk of coronary artery disease, help increase and boost our immune system, help increase our brain health, help keep us overall healthy as we continue throughout our lives. So another source of healthy fats are seeds. They generally get lumped in with nuts, but I did just want to mention here that seeds are another great source of fiber, also great to help reduce blood sugar, cholesterol, and blood pressure. These are also a great little powerhouse of nutrients with lots of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and those healthy fats, the monounsaturated and the polyunsaturated. And a good seed option to include in your diet, maybe some flax seeds, chia seeds. There's lots of flax seeds. You can sprinkle those, or even sesame seeds. We do that all the time, sprinkle them on a salad. Chia seeds, great. You can do like a little homemade pudding and put it in your refrigerator overnight. Pumpkin seeds are a wonderful addition, as well as sesame seeds and sunflower seeds. So let's discuss just a few of our favorite nuts, but there's plenty out there. But pecans, or pecan, about 1 ounce is about 19 halves of the nut. So here you're looking at only 1.8 grams of saturated fat. So that's, again, the unhealthy fat, because we were looking at the mono and polyunsaturated as your healthy fats. Saturated fats are unhealthy fats. However, it's not super high. So it's not such a bad trade-off when you're getting, 6 to 12 grams of those PUFA or MUFA. That's the polyunsaturated fat and the monounsaturated fats. So that's where the trade-off is. It's a pretty good trade-off. Then you only have about less than 4 grams of carbohydrates, but a good 2.5, maybe higher grams of protein, and then 34 milligrams of magnesium as well. And for walnuts, this is actually just a little tidbit to let you know, pecans actually are native to America, and there's grown in about 15 states, with Georgia being the highest leader of growing pecans, and that the United States is the world's largest producer of pecans. And then when we go to walnuts, this is actually the most widely consumed of all nuts. And a lot of those antioxidants that are found in walnuts have 2 times, possibly even up to 15 times, the powerful vitamin E that can be found. So again, here's a little breakdown about 14 halves of the walnut. And if you look at a walnut, I often think it helps me remember how good they are for the brain, because they look like a little brain. If you look at it, all those little nooks and crannies kind of remind me of a brain. But again, all the good benefits here of walnuts, and they're really important to help your digestion and bring down any inflammation that might be going on in the body, and help reduce the risk of colon cancer as well. Ooh, the cashew nut. This is one of my favorites. So the cashew nut is a very buttery, kind of sweet flavor. A lot of the times you'll find it even ground up as a nut butter. It can even be used as a milk, as a dairy alternative. There's a lot of different options for cashews. You find them in dishes cooked all the time. You have a little handful as a snack. You can throw them on a salad, things like that. So again, they have a lot of good potential and a lot of nutrients going on here with some cashews. So these are just some pictures. The tree on the left with the yellow leaves is a walnut tree. The tree on the right is a cashew nut tree. And they actually call often the little cashew nuts cashew apples, because of the way they grow in that little picture on the bottom right. And then you can see on the left, that's the way a walnut is grown as well. So it's important to just take note that, we're definitely a great source of finding different nuts throughout the states, throughout the United States, but also, where they're coming from, and knowing that it's a very healthful option for you. So almonds, just 23 almonds a day can help improve your cholesterol levels. So what it does is it actually increases well, actually, sorry, it will increase your HDL, what I call the happy cholesterol. So will increase your HDL, helping your overall cholesterol levels. So it's important to know that having, making even just a little variety of nuts as your snack would be a great option as well. And these are only 163 calories for that 1 ounce, very low in saturated fats, and having a decent amount of protein and magnesium as well. Pistachios, these are another great one also. So pistachios, you're looking at about 49 nuts and as being the 1 ounce. And really the good thing about pistachios is that when you're shelling them, it's kind of like slows down the eating process. You don't eat so many at once because you have to do the shelling of the outside portion of the nut. So that helps kind of regulate how many you should be having. Again, only about 160, 159 calories for the 1 ounce, good amount of those monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats, as well as a good healthy carbohydrate and good healthy proteins. So peanuts, it wouldn't be a nut program if we didn't mention it, although peanuts are not a nut. Actually, they are a legume, like a bean family, but it shares a lot of the same nutritional properties as nuts, which is kind of why we categorize it as such. It's actually one of the most, interesting profile of nutrients because it is a legume. However, it can be categorized a little bit as a nut because that's the way we eat it, really. There's not too many beans and things that we eat in the same similar manner. But here again, only 161 calories for the ounce. They have a good amount of unsaturated fats and protein and even magnesium as well. So a lot of the nutrients in the powerhouse here for even this not so real nut, but we treat it as a nut. So just to incorporate different ways into our diet. There's many ways. These are just some examples of snacking on them raw. Obviously, roasting actually might decrease some of the nutritional profile, but that's not really such a terrible thing if you're able to just toast them a bit. If you just sort of if you're going to roast them in the oven around 300 to 350 degrees for about 10 minutes or so, no more than 15. Or if you're going to do them on the stovetop, no more than 5 or 7 minutes in the pan, and keeping it at a low heat is better for roasting. But snacking on them raw is a wonderful option. Having them as a salad topper, as I mentioned, even throwing some in your yogurt. If you're going to have yogurt for the day, making them with smoothies, a wonderful addition to a pesto. Pestos, a lot of the traditional recipes call for pine nuts, but I've made it a million times with walnuts. And that way I know I'm getting a lot of nutritional value out of the walnuts, and it's a cheaper option as well. And then, as I mentioned earlier, some of the nut butters, you can even do some soaking of nuts and make some of the milk that will come of them. And you can make like your own almond milk and things like that. And it's wonderful to add as an additional ingredient to cooking or baking for the things that would call for that. And even making some nut crumbs you can sprinkle on top of different things as well. As I mentioned, the difference between roasting and raw, well, some of the unsaturated fats might be damaged while you're roasting them, some of that nutritional value, and also they're more vulnerable to oxidation and getting that rancid taste. So roasting chopped ground nuts can go rancid quicker. So it is a little bit of a better option, maybe, if that's something you're concerned about. But honestly, I think they're both great. If you're going to eat them roasted, just eat them, within a reasonable amount of time, maybe a few days of roasting them. Don't roast them all at once. Just roast what you need in that moment. And then that way you can keep them in their raw state and then use them as an unsalted nut. Of course, we're always going to recommend and keeping them stored properly in the refrigerator if they're raw. You can also freeze them as well. If you were to go to one of the big box stores and buy, a large amount of nuts, you can freeze them also and they'll keep better. That way they won't go rancid. So we just would be remiss if we didn't mention a little bit about a nut allergy here. Tree nuts are common allergens, and the most common is actually peanuts. Again, not a true nut, but it is a very common allergy. So I just wanted to make mention of that. More common in children. However, some children can even outgrow them as their immune system and their digestive system matures and becomes stronger. So some of the symptoms of an allergy might be hives, as an something, itching, tingling, mouth or throat, stomach cramps, wheezing, runny nose, rapid pulse, and dizziness. But this is, of course, something you would want to discuss with your doctor. So just to go over in summary, that nuts might have many different health benefits, very rich in nutrients, and are available in many types. They can be eaten in many different ways. And that the recommendation again is about 1 to 1.5 ounces of nuts. So it's not something we want to add in addition to our snacks. It would be a better snack if you made it instead of, let's say, the chips or something like that. It would be a better option getting like maybe lightly salted nuts. That way you're still getting that salty crunch, and that would be a better option as a snack. But just some information if you wanted to look up, there's lots of different recipes. You can look up the California walnuts, simple recipes and tips. I've looked on there for quite a few things if you want to incorporate different things into your diet. There's also a comparison chart on the California almond site that shows you some of the different nuts, and you can see the amount of calories. Like for instance, a macadamia nut and a pecan can have 200 maybe plus it depending on how many you're having calories versus something that would be a bit lower around 160 for the cashews or the almonds and things like that. So this is a nice little reference if you wanted to look that